New day, always a new time, and there's a new way.
Well, good afternoon, and welcome to Cover Your Assets at a brand new time right here at The Patriot. We are in the house with Mr. Todd Rooker, and we've got Craig Nestor also here along for the ride. Gentlemen, we're talking to a whole new group of people today at a different hour.
What time is it?
It's
what
late.
time is it? What time is it?
It's afternoon. Usually we're here at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Well,
so,
actually,
yeah.
we're here a little before that, but
Well,
yeah.
That's when people go ahead and hear us.
Yes.
So, guys, since we are introducing ourselves today to a brand new group of people, we are Financial Tactics for the 21st Century. And you can check us out online at coveryourassets21.com. That's coveryourassets21.com. And should you have a question for either of the two experts, and I'll explain what they're experts in here in a minute, 651-289-4488. That's 651-289-4488 all hour long. So let's start with you, Todd Rooker. You have a huge background, and what you do out there right now is called unbiased advice. Talk a little bit about what you do.
My job is to help a person who may be considering dealing with a financial crisis in the future, possibly now, but now or in the future, or wants to ensure that they never are in a financially compromised position. Teach them how to position themselves to minimize the damage, to get through a process such as that, because, no one's ever in a financial crisis until they are.
Right.
And, and then when it happens, they say, my God, Todd, I went to one of your seminars 3 years ago, and a best seminar I've ever been to, but got to tell you, not in this lifetime did I ever think that I'd actually be sitting here in front of you with my own situation. This is something I hear every day, and after you hear it enough, you start to realize. So the goal is to get a person to understand that good things can bad things can happen to good people, and you've got to be prepared. If something should go wrong, what is your next move? You just can't sit there and say, I'll just keep paying my bills until I liquidate my retirement account and completely run out of money and I'm on the street.
Well, you can do everything right, Todd, and not get out of the way of this economy.
Yeah.
I mean, this monster's eating its way up the food chain.
Well, that's exactly true. Many people, as I said from the onset, they're solid, stable people, never missed a payment in their lives. They don't know how to do anything but. And now here they are finding themselves in a compromised position. It's shocking when you hear someone walk into my office and say, look, man, I can't even fathom that I'm sitting here talking about this stuff, because frankly, 10 years ago, I'd have told you that my net worth was $20 million. And now as I sit here, my business is gone. The value of my real estate is plummeted. My business is being liquidated by the bank through an orderly liquidation, and my house is in foreclosure, and I've lost everything over the last few years. How in God's name could that have happened to me? And that's the type of stories that I hear on an ongoing basis. My job and the job of this team that I surround myself with is to strategically plan to know. My job is to know what the CPA, the financial advisor, the mortgage broker, the credit specialist, all rolled into one, to create a strategy that addresses every issue, minimizes the damage, and helps a person get back on their feet on the other side. That's what it's all about.
And you have all sorts of background experience, but I think it's really important to state, going back to how I introduced you here, Todd Rooker, is that this unbiased advice, you are not making your money or your living by selling any kind of securities. You have no investment in a particular outcome. You are strictly an advisor. That's
it. I will say that I've done financial planning for 27 years, but today I don't hold any licenses because, quite honestly, I can't. No one would offer insurance coverage for the things that I do. But my job, I know it is kind of scary. It's a dangerous proposition that I weave through every day. But I don't get paid to sell real estate, to sell investments, to sell insurance, to sell mortgages. I don't do any of that. You walk in, I give you bottom buck, no bull, but I have enormous experience doing this. I started this way back in the mid '80s with the farm crisis. And found out quickly when I went to do estate planning for people that I grew up with on a family farm in Crookston, Minnesota, found out that the least of their issues were how to do estate planning with generational tax, but rather they were interested in how do I go to war with the people who used to be my best friends, the bankers, who are now liquidating my equipment and auctioning off my farm. And when you do that for 10 years, you learn the ins and outs of bankruptcy, asset protection strategies that, quite frankly, very few people really understand, because when you really go to the wall, you find out what works and what what doesn't, and what the perspective of the bank is, and whether or not they're going to do this just as a matter of trying to make an example of you, or whether or not they're going to be lucid and intelligent in the way that they approach the agreements and the debt settlement that you may have to undergo.
And 651-289-4488, 651-289-4488 to talk with Todd. And I think that, it's important to note that, here on Cover Your Assets, Financial Tactics for the 21st Century, part of the reason that you spend your time here with us every week on this show is to, reach out to the public at a very interesting time when these skills are more important than ever.
The business that I'm in is a unique and highly specialized area. But that being said, I don't lack for clients. I don't ever do free consultations ever. People walk in the door, they pay me, and it's ironic because they pay me even though they don't even many times know who I am or what I necessarily do. But I don't have time to sell you to the next meeting. You always got to recognize that when you go to a free consultation, if the person who is giving you advice is not selling you a product, but rather simply is going to give you advice and information, and that is the product that they sell, you got to ask yourself, why in the world are they going to do that for free? The fact of the matter is they never do.
Right.
What they're really doing is they're selling you to the next meeting to get you to pay the retainer, scare the crap out of you, and get you to pay. I mean, seriously. So that's a little disingenuous. It's the way that business is done. But for me, I don't have time to screw around with it. When I sit down with a person, they're going to pay me one billable hour to do that. I'm going to go through a 14-page discovery document. I'm asking everything the bank is going to see, everything that you own that is licensed, registered, titled, insured, has been depreciated on taxes, has been put forth on a PFS, personal financial statement. And I'm going to know what the bank is going to see. And then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to ask you, what would you like to see happen if it could work out the way you want it to? And after you tell me that, I'm going to tell you whether or not there's any feasibility of that happening, what the implications will be, the length of time that it takes to recover. That business has me booked out 6 weeks in advance, and I see 5 to 7 clients a day. So I don't have any problem finding clients. The challenge is the people who pay me oftentimes are people who even now are fairly astute, even though they may have lost the millions. They can afford to pay my services. The problem is that many of the people who would need this type of information the most are alienated by the fact that I charge what I do. So what this show is, and what it is at least attempted to do, is to give this information to people who would otherwise not be able to afford it, give them this information, get it out into the general public. And as Craig and I talk a lot, you're not necessarily going to find the best information from the nonprofits. I mean, the people, I make money. I like making money. I'm going to keep it that way. And so, yeah, do I have insights and information that probably just about nobody else has? You better believe it, and I get paid pretty darn well for it. So,
And so 651-289-4488 to tap into that. Now, Craig Nestor, the other piece of this today on our inaugural 3 p.m. time today for people that have not met the Cover Your Assets team. Craig, you have a little different side to what goes on here, what this team does, and what you offer. So why don't you go ahead and explain it a little bit?
Well, the last few years in our economy has been very unforgiving, at least statistically. We see the worst housing market we've ever seen. Some people have called it Depression 2.0. Our clients, our friends, our families, our own financial foundation is under attack. And you might not be in a crisis, but if you've bought a house in the last 10 years or own a home, you're involved in this economy. So my specialty for this show is foreclosure defense. I'm going to provide solutions, real world working solutions. As Todd says, when you really go to the wall, you know what works. And when families are struggling with, do I make my next mortgage payment? That's when I'm going to come in and I'm going to walk them through their exact situation. Here's loan modification. Here's sheriff's sales. Here's the short sale process, the foreclosure process in Minnesota, bankruptcy, deed in lieu. How does this work together? How do I get my family through this with as little damage as possible? What's real? What's not real? I mean, we get some stuff in the internet that's not even real, right? What costs money? What's for free? What can the government do? What are my real world chances? And heaven forbid, none of this works. Where do I go?
And the real world is not looking up on the internet to see what the government has put forth as the next iteration of the save the American family. Because the reality is, if you're actually in this business and you're dealing in the trenches, you find out that very little of what is put forth by the government is complied with by the banks anyway. So everybody tells me, do you know about this new thing? I do, but who cares, because the banks aren't complying with it anyway.
You can't socialize a specific problem. That's the issue. Stop socializing the answer. It's an individual problem.
And we'll talk a little bit more about the latest unveiling from the government right here on Cover Your Assets, coveryourassets21.com. Craig Nestor, Todd Ricker, we'll be right back.
Bye.